brainchild who thought that of? I remember in California, my wife owned the daycare, and we had these kids in there, and the state would place them in the daycare. Holy cow. They got more programs than I did as retired military. And one of the first criteria, they put them on the Migrant Head Start program. They pay for their daycare, they pay for their schooling, they pay for their dental work, their medical care. They pay, gee, where'd I sign up? I'd been better off, instead of retiring from the military, I'd been better off to give up my American citizenship, go to Mexico, become a citizen, and then run the border back over. I'd have got better benefits and not have to risk my life. And then we see at a hearing in Washington where they got an illegal immigrant sitting there chastising our own elected officials and don't have the right to lock him up because they gave him some kind of amnesty or something. So we couldn't lock him up. Why do you think we have so many unwed mothers and they support that? I mean, I understand those things happen. I'm not going to sit here and say people don't, you know, we're not perfect. There's only one perfect one, and we're not that guy. And so people make mistakes. It happens. But now it's being taught. It's being pushed because of that socialist communist agenda. The more people you can make dependent, the better off you are. That's what they're doing. I went into a school with Senator Howard Kaloogian years ago. He was a state senator in California. We walked in, and I heard the teacher look up, and she's talking to these girls in the classroom. She says, "You girls, don't be stupid. Don't get married and go have those babies right off the bat." And I thought, bravo. I looked at Howard, I said, "Now, would you ever thought you had heard her say that?" Well, then she lived up to what we thought she was going to do. She says, "Be smart. Have your babies and then get married. That way the government will pay for it." This is elementary school. Then she looked at the boys and she said, "Now, you boys, I want you to listen to me. If you're smart, you're organized, okay, and you're neat, you're probably gay, and you need to own up to it." That is a true story. Folks, they are attacking us, and they have been for years. And they point the finger at us and call us insensitive. They call us racist. I was kicked off the radio, Mike and Spike show. We were kicked off the radio. The lady called in and said we were racist. Well, they called in every day and said we were racist. We were talking about my military experience, and my co-host, my brother-in-law Spike, he had lived over a missionary in Thailand for a while. He would call up. If we didn't give them free movie tickets every day, we were racist. One lady called up, wanted a free trip to Paris. We owed it to her. Said it. I have a recording of it. You don't take my word for it. We owe her a trip to Paris. We owe it to her. And let me tell you, when she accused us of being racist, she got on there and she said, "This is what Mike said." And I've never denied it. I said it. And I'll say it again. I said hip-hop. She said that hip-hop was what I said, but I was actually speaking in white boy code. And she knew what I really meant when I said hip-hop. Now, there's a couple of things about that. I'm a pretty intelligent guy. Been around the world a lot. Not too many places I haven't been. Done a lot. Worked with many different senators, congressmen, and surrogate speakers, and stuff like that. I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. But I just kind of feel like now I should be ashamed of myself. At 54 years old, I'm just finding out that there's such a thing as white boy code. How did I miss that? And I don't appreciate me being the last one to know either. You guys, I don't appreciate that. I tell people all the time, I hear a lot of talk when I go around, people saying, "Mike, I'm leaving the Republican Party. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm going to the Conservative Party. I'm doing that, blah, 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 blah." Not me. I'm not leaving. Not yet. And I tell them why. Me leaving the Republican Party because the deadbeat politicians won't do their job would be like me having obnoxious house guests and then vacating my house because I don't want to deal with them anymore and they won't do what I've asked them to do, clean up after themselves. I'm not going to do it. I would throw the house guest out, and that's what I'm going to do with the guys in Austin and Washington that don't do what we sent them to do. I'm going to do everything I can, talk to everybody I can, do everything in my power to boot them out of office. I'm not changing parties. I'm just going to take the people who are the rhinos and don't live up to the Republican Party, and I'm going to get rid of them. After all, it's our party, and they've been infiltrating it for a long time. They've been infiltrating it for a long time. It's time that we get rid of them. You know, the reason I even told you what I did in the military, because I wanted you to know, I know these politicians can do their job if they want to. They're not incompetent. We have young people who go to war every day. I mean, they go into harm's way, and they don't think twice about it. They don't think twice. One of the craziest things that I can remember is during the Gulf War. I had been asked to fly a mission into what was called Failaka Island. It was an island right off the coast of Kuwait City, about 20 miles. Now, their howitzers shot a further range than ours did, so they could have reached us. Failaka Island was a very small island, and the Republican Guard Marines were dug in pretty deep there, pretty hard. There was a small island nearby, and what they wanted me to do is take a group of Marines in and drop them off with their howitzers, let them fire on that island, then come back and extract them. Now remember, to do that, I've got enemy aircraft that are in the air. Not all of them were grounded like you thought. I had enemy hovercraft that were out there, many that were hiding underneath some of the Iraqi and Kuwaiti oil derricks there that had heavy armament on them. Then we had mines in the water, floating mines. Many of them were the World War II mines, which two of the ships with us actually hit them. That's where I got my combat action ribbon, was getting caught up in a minefield. So we planned this thing for quite some time. And I'll never forget these kids. We worked on everything that we could. And I want you to think about this. When you think about the things that you go through in your daily life. Did I forget to pick up the dry cleaning? Did I buy this because I'm going to prepare this for dinner tomorrow night? You think about that. Then I want you to think about what it's like to get up early in the morning, stay up to the wee hours of morning yet again, maybe get a couple hours sleep because you're sitting there. I was in charge of the detachment. And you can't sleep because you're thinking, what have I forgotten? What have I forgotten? What else can I do to save these kids' lives? And then I decided that what I was going to do, that I was going to take a group of volunteers, not just my crew. I wanted to look at guys, and I wanted guys to volunteer, but I wanted guys that were unmarried. I didn't want to leave any widows behind. One of the guys that was on my craft, being one Custer. His wife had just had a baby. He comes to mind. Custer was very angry with me because I told him he couldn't go. Now, what person in their right mind would volunteer to go into this? But it's what they've been trained to do. It's what you told them to do. And you raised them. They have this incredible sense of duty to do what you sent them to do, to the point where they're willing to die for it. And Custer, boy, though I was his superior, he chewed me up one side and down the other. It was his right to go. Finally, I caved in and I said, okay, but you're going to ride in the cockpit with me because there's 10,000 pounds of Kevlar and bulletproof glass that should stop a 50 caliber round. And he agreed to that. And I remember the day they were going to launch us. The engines were turned up. Now you have to think about this. All the guys that you normally stand around and you joke with, all of a sudden when you're walking down the passageway on the ship, nobody's looking you in the eye. Nobody's looking you in the eye because they've heard the briefing. They know this is probably not going to go well. And they can't look at you. I always tell people I know what it's like to walk down death row. So my crew was down in the well deck. We're getting ready to go. The engines are turning up. This craft has 4 TF-40 Bravo gas turbine jet engines. It's loud. Wasn't time to launch us yet, though. And I thought, there's something I really need to do. And so I took my helmet off and I headed back up to my berthing compartment because it was really the only place where I could get a little privacy. And I went in. My bunk was on the bottom. And I knelt down by my bunk. And I went up there, and what I really wanted a picture of my wife, Tracy, and Holly. I always carried this in my flight suit pocket. But I knew I had to have it with me. If I died, I wanted this in my pocket. And then I decided I need to speak to my Father in heaven. And so I began to pray. Not something that I normally did. Not back then. And I asked my Father in heaven to protect us. Me, I didn't care. If I was going to die in combat, that's okay. Every day I looked myself in the mirror and I told myself, today I'm prepared to give my life for the American people. Didn't matter. I was okay with that. But I didn't want to lose these kids. And I asked Heavenly Father, if there's something you can do, if we don't need to do this, then please stop it. And then I started to get up. But there was a problem. I couldn't. I was so afraid. Now in high school, I lifted over 1,000 pounds with my legs. Leg press on a universal machine. I couldn't get up. And I'm not shy about why. I was afraid. My knees were absolutely weak, strengthless. But I knew that I had to go do my duty, as afraid as I was. And so I began to ask Heavenly Father to give me the strength to stand up. I grabbed the middle bunk on one side, grabbed the other middle bunk, and I pulled myself up. And I stood there until I felt like I had strength in my legs. And then I walked out the door. Now I know this is a lot of drama, and you're probably expecting a different ending. But Heavenly Father answered my questions and my prayer. The mission was called off. As soon as I walked out the door, someone was there to meet me and said, the mission's been scrubbed. And now you work yourself up so much for this that I was furious and I yelled, why? We were ready to go. And what had happened is we had a Kuwaiti liaison officer on board with us. And what he had done, it was on a satellite phone up on the signal bridge doing an interview with CNN as they were getting ready to launch us. Well, CNN is where Saddam Hussein got all his intel. So in essence, he was standing there telling the Iraqi army that we were coming to stand by and be weapons ready for us as we hit. And I believe that Heavenly Father spared my life that day. I do. I believe that. Now the reason I say this is because, again, we have people who will risk their lives, will give their lives to do the duty that you sent them to go do. They won't hesitate about it, and no matter how afraid they are, they will stand up and they'll go do it because you taught them to have a sense of duty. Yet, we can't get the guys in Austin, the guys in Washington, to do anything that you sent them to do. They can't do anything because they don't want to and they don't care about the American people. We fight for a lot of things. We fight for our First Amendment, our Second Amendment. We fight for a lot of things. And we see what he's doing now. He's trying to take the guns. We know why. If I had a playbook that would show you what you do to a conquered nation, he's following that playbook word for word for word for word, all the way down. Barack Obama is trying to collapse America. That's not Mike Lee standing here as some right-wing wacko saying that. That's somebody who's got worldly experience, that's been all over the world multiple times, has been involved with politics, telling you, I see it. There's no question about it. He's trying to collapse America, and he's not going to stop until he does. I'm going to tell you, the worst hasn't come yet. Now, I don't advocate violence. I don't. I tell people, and I don't advocate secession. We need to take back our country, and we're going to do that by running the obnoxious gas out. That's what we're going to do in Texas. We've got to start with all these guys down in Austin. Austin's going to save America. Do you know that? It has the possibility of it. If we can get enough guys down there, decent guys, guys who are really going to do something. And I get so frustrated, and I'm sure they're great guys. But when a guy comes to me and says, I'm running for Speaker of the House, and this is why, right? I'm on board with you. Because what we need to do is we need to initiate some bills, okay, that'll stop these benefits going to all these people that are sucking off the welfare system. And if we do away with that, guess what's going to happen? They're going to leave and they're going to go to a blue state, someplace else. Because they won't get the benefits in Texas, so they're going to leave. And that will stop Texas from becoming purple or blue in the future. But when that guy comes to me and says, I'm running for Speaker and this is why, and I say, okay, and I call everybody I know, I say, start calling your representative, I want you to support this guy for Speaker. And all of a sudden he drops off and says, nah, you know what, I think this guy has a better shot, and I'm going to give it to him. Really? And then I'm sure that guy was a great guy. But then when he stands up and says, nah, there's going to be too much pressure put on other people. Some people may get mad at me for saying this, so let me tell you that. When you asked me to go into combat, I didn't say, nah, there's going to be too many bullets flying my way. Nah, it's not going to work out for me. I don't expect that guy running for Speaker to do it either. Sacrifices have to be made. And if it ruins your political career, so be it. Go home and find something else. How about go home and make a living like everybody else? Okay, now I know they're not getting a bunch of money down there in Austin. They just get reimbursement. But how about go home and live like a normal person? If you are not prepared to go to Austin and to Washington to do what the American people told you to do, go home. I don't want you there. Go home. I'm fed up. I'm fed up. I've had it. And so now I don't pull any punches. I'm not politically correct. I probably never will be again. Don't want to be, and I don't care who doesn't like it. I'm an American. My ancestors fought for this country. One of the reasons I love Texas so much is you're so much like South Carolinians. My wife's from the Arklatex. I'm from South Carolina. But you're like us, because remember, we started the Civil War. We were very instrumental in the Revolutionary War, because we had that same attitude. Don't mess with us. We don't mind fighting. And I'm not going down without a fight. I go out and talk to everybody I can. We got to start with the children. We went around on Constitution Day. They have Constitution Day in Texas every year. Did you know that? In the school system. You have the right to go into the school system and talk about the Constitution. I spent a whole day going to all the schools there where we live, teaching the Constitution. And you know what? Those kids, 5th graders, they loved it. They still come up to me and go, Mom, this is the man who taught me the Constitution. Next year what I want to do is I want to roll up a little scroll, the Constitution, Bill of Rights. And I want to hand them the Bill of Rights as they walk back to go back to their classroom. And I want to say, this is your Bill of Rights. These are your rights. Hold on to them. Put them someplace safe. Don't let anybody have them. Don't let anybody take them. Because when they are gone, you will never get them back. They've been programming our kids for years. Now it's our turn. You cannot sit at home and say, oh, how was school today, little Johnny? You've got to go down and sit in on the school. And I don't care what they tell you. They don't want you there, pull your kid out of school. My kids go to Kimber Academy, the same school that Glenn Beck's kids go to. Okay, mine were there long before Glenn's were. They go, what is it, Tracy, 3 days a week? She goes 3 days a week. Now, she doesn't go to the actual campus now. My youngest, she does it online. She does it online, and she can sit there and text a question into the teacher and get an answer back live, right over the internet. They go 3 days a week, 4 hours a day, no homework, they advance 5 times faster than the national average. How's that work? And no propaganda, no communism, no socialism. Most of their readers are out of the Bible. They study people like Cleon Skousen. Did you see this book? Hold that up, Tracy. Cleon Skousen's book there. If you've ever read Cleon Skousen, he was one of the pioneers in the conservative movement. And we knew Cleon when he was alive. He's an amazing writer. You have to get involved. Your grandkids, your kids, go to the school. Look at their curriculum. See what they're being taught. Quiz them when they come home. If they say something that's not right, go to the school and tell them. Just like with that school superintendent, they start doing the moonwalk. I never seen anybody dance like that in my life. Because they don't want you to question them. They want you to be little slaves in servitude that will do whatever they say. I sit there and I watch the movie Lincoln. You know how many people, black people, got up and walked out of that movie? Because they said it was propaganda. Really? Really? Oh, yeah, because the Republicans wanted you in slavery. Really? Maybe you should study history. But they don't. They're lied to all the time. Maxine Waters. I'm going to say this, and I normally, please forgive me, I'm a good Christian man. But I'm going to tell you something, and I hope somebody sends Maxine Waters a copy of this. I have never seen a bigger piece of scum in my life. And I mean that. She's scum. You know why she's scum? Because she lies. She does nothing but lie to people. It doesn't matter what the truth is, she twists it. She does it for her own gain. That's what the Democratic Party does. That's what the progressive movement is all about. She's got a video where the second half, George Bush's second term, they have an investigation. They believe that he manipulated the voting machines. That's another thing. Right now, contact your representatives and do not let up. Tell them to do away with the electronic voting machines and go back to paper. We have to do that because they're too easy to manipulate. That's how Barack Obama got elected. He did not win this election. You're not going to tell me that there are 200 precincts where not one person voted for Mitt Romney. That's a lie, and they know it, and you've got to be stupid to expect me to believe that. Maxine Waters gets up there, and she brings a guy in. It's on YouTube. And they have him doing this testimony where he's talking about writing the code. He says a Republican hired him to write the code. Way back then. Maybe he did. I don't know. The Republicans aren't perfect either. They're just as much at fault. And they get this guy, says he wrote the code. And that he wrote the code so that it'll give you a 51-49 outcome. Now this is congressional testimony. A 51-49 outcome. And if you go in looking for it, the code will eat itself. After a certain amount of time, the code will delete itself. Now, being armed with this information and knowing Maxine Waters like we all do, is there anybody in here who really believes that Maxine Waters did not, with the Democratic Party and the progressives, with Barack Obama, use that in this last election? I guarantee they did. How many times did we hear people? My wife did. Walked in, pushed Mitt Romney, and Dictator Obama popped up. So she went back to Mitt Romney, Obama popped up. Nobody's going to tell me they didn't use it. We have got to get out and get aggressive. Stop being so nice. I'm telling you now, the niceties are over with. I don't advocate violence, but I will tell you, it's time to call things what they are. If somebody standing in that bank line and they're telling an untruth, you turn around and tell them that's not true. And you make sure that everybody that they just lied to gets the truth. Everywhere you are, you do that. Monitor your kids, your grandkids, go in and listen to what's being taught in school. Then you'll know what they're hearing. You have control over what they're being taught. And we're not going to let them program them like Hitler's Youth or the Khmer Rouge, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to program our children. We've got to get those people down in Austin on the ball. People ask me, where do we start? There's too many of them. To go through their records, you're missing the point. Has anybody been doing their job? Put everybody on the chopping block. And then go back and figure out who you want to save, because that's going to be the easy job. Everybody else has got to go. Everybody else has got to go. There's not that many worth saving. I'm sorry, but it's the way it is. And that's the only way we're going to save this country. That's the only way we're going to save this country. We need to hold those guys in Austin and the ones in Washington to the same standards that we hold our military to. Those guys who live in foxholes, have bombs dropped on them. They go down under the ocean in submarines with nuclear bombs all around them. They parachute out of airplanes. Okay? They do things because they were expected to do it, and you taught them a sense of duty. Those guys won't do it. We need to hold them to it, or we need to get rid of them. And if we hold them to it, we will save Texas. But we've got to start now. And if we save Texas, we will save America. And let me tell you something else. America is the guardian of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I don't care what anybody tells you. If America falls, the gospel of Jesus Christ will fall. We cannot let that happen. We cannot let that happen. We have to hold them to the same standards. And if we do that, then America will continue to be one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I promise you. Thank you so much for your time.
Take a few seconds. Does anybody have, I know we've been running probably a little low, but does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? Like 5 minutes to anybody? So I can ask them a question.
Why has the superintendents in Texas got such a strong union, I call it?
I wish I knew. I'm a supporter of educators. Educating somebody, providing freedom to somebody, sharing the gospel with somebody are the three most noble things you can do for another human being. But, having said that, I'd like to know who the fool was that gave the schools the right to charge you taxes. Because have you ever seen a school who says they have enough tax money? You never will. You never will. And so these guys, like I said, he wants more money. They tried to pass a bond. It failed miserably. Then we have our band, Queen City Marching Band's gone to state 3 times, Tracy. So when the bond failed the first time, then they put it back in again and said, if we don't get it passed this time, we're getting rid of our band. We won't be able to have it. Well, it failed miserably again. So now he's hired this law firm, and I'm not going to say they're unscrupulous. All I can say is if you look them up, like I did on the internet, I was shocked at the fraud alerts that came in against them. So he's using them to get the money that he wants, to coerce you out of your money, is what he's doing. I tell you what, I hate to keep using this term. I never thought I'd ever be standing here saying, that's communism. But that's what it is. They don't want you to have a choice. They want to take your choice from you, and they want to dictate that you have to give them that money.
agree with you, we need to get everybody out. I'm having a lot of difficulties getting them out. Republican Party here locally, when Rick Perry was running for office the last time, I didn't want to vote for the man. And I was told by the party itself, which I'm still a member of the Republican Party, that he's our candidate, we got to support him. I say kick the bum out, get somebody else, and you're going to have to sacrifice somebody along the way. You have a way to get them out without supporting more of the same on both parties. This is when we can't afford the alternative. I said we got the alternative. But the point was you can't seem to get everybody on board to kick somebody out because it's our candidate attitude.
You're right, you're right. And having run for office myself, I can tell you that one of the things that I ran up against was there was the party who said, oh, this is the guy we're supporting. Behind the scenes now. Now you realize that in most states, there are no laws that cover the primaries. You know that, right? The party gets to decide. Now we're back to taking back our party. Because we do. We have a lot of people. You have to remember, it's just like they talk about Islam. The ends justifies the means. So you can get someone who's a Muslim, devout Muslim, and they'll drink and smoke and run around to all the wild clubs and act crazy like they think Americans do. All Americans is what they think. And as long as they can fulfill their agenda, it was worth doing that. It was okay in the name of Allah. Well, they do the same thing, the left. They will take people. They'll send to your district. I see it all the time, all over the country. They'll see a school that's a really conservative school, and they'll send gays from a different state to that school to start a gay club. But they'll do away with the Bible club and any Bible study. And they'll start the gay club. They do that, and they will send people over to infiltrate your party. Okay? They'll come in, and they not only will register as Republicans, they will run as Republicans. They'll run as Republicans. And so what we have to do is we have to start, we put them in office. We can take them out. And we don't have to wait till the next election. I'm going to tell you now, being around politics as much as I have over the years, all we have to do is take a couple of prominent people out now. Now. Not next election, now. And have them fighting for their very careers, and those guys will get in line. Well, you're going to have to do some type of a recall, or you're going to have to do something that's going to force their hand to make them leave. And if that means that you have to go into their background and find the dirt, we're different times now. I'm not a dirty player, okay? We're fighting for our very survival right now. There are no rules in combat. There shouldn't be. That was our biggest problem in Vietnam, is we tied the hands of our troops. And the first Gulf War, we didn't do that. That's why we left 300,000 dead there on the highway of death. Okay? 300,000 Iraqi soldiers dead. So what we have to do is whatever it takes to take them out of office. Because people are worried about our very survival. The atmosphere right now is different than it was 6 months ago, which is different than it was a year ago, 4 years ago. People are angry. I don't want to let the guys down, and I'm a Republican. But they're not going to tell me how I should think. I'm done with that.
Down over here. One last question.
Thank you, Mike, for being here. I was traveling and I missed some stuff. You mentioned the Speaker of the House, and we had a Brian Hughes, I thought, announced first, and then a David Simpson announced second. Is that true?
Yes, you had Brian and then David. And Brian eventually stepped up and said, well, I think David has a better shot. He's better connected than I am, so Brian stepped out. And then David stepped in. And then from everything that I've read, because of course David doesn't confide in me, but everything that I've read and the video that I saw, David says, well, there were so many Republicans who were afraid of retribution from Strauss that he wasn't going to get enough support. That's where my problem lies. I don't care if you get retribution. Some people have to sacrifice themselves to save the country. That's how heroes are made.
Right, no, I've known Brian Hughes for a number of years. You know,
He's a good guy.
And when he made that announcement, I thought we had a quality individual. When he stepped down, we got less than quality.
I think that they probably are both very honorable men.
They are.
My problem is that I need somebody who will be steadfast. Let me tell you where we're at. We need some Spartans. And I tell people that all the time. We need Spartans. We need people who believe no surrender, no retreat at any cost. You know, the Spartans, they fought tens of thousands with no regard to dying themselves. But they knew there was a greater cause. They knew they had to sacrifice themselves for their people and their country. Our feet are on the edge of the cliff. We've had the progressives and the Democrats push us and push us until our heels are hanging over the edge of the cliff. We have no place else to go but over the edge. We've got to start pushing back. And that's what I intend to do at all costs. I'll be around for a while. Anything that you want to talk to me about, I'll be more than happy to talk to you. Bob?
Steve Ministeri is going to be in Jacksonville tomorrow at a Republican club. I know he yanked the rug out from under the Ron Paul people at the state. I don't know enough about him. What should I do tomorrow night with Ministeri?
Well, I tell you what, the best thing you can do with people like that, and you say you don't know a lot about them, go record them, hear what they have to say, publish it out to as many people as you can get it out to, email the links. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Lee Patriot, okay? Just go on Twitter, Mike Lee Patriot, and you can follow me on Twitter, and you can have a conversation. You can go to Mike Lee on Facebook. You can find me, generally it's Mike Lee in Queen City, or Mike Lee LCAC, LCAC for the Hovercraft, you know, and you'll be able to follow my page there on Facebook. But the best thing we can do, they use the internet a lot. We need to embrace it. We need to embrace it. And if I was going to convey anything to you tonight, there is no time to waste. My wife Tracy's telling me something.
No, I just wanted to address the issue about the school tax and why they would put the taxes for schools. And the reason for that.
You'll notice I don't speak as loud as my husband. I was addressing the issue about school tax. And the reason, in my opinion, that they tax through the school system here is because everyone wants to do right by children, and no one can attack that. So you can't question the tax because you're taking away from the children. But it's not just the children that get that money. That money goes to the state. And what does the state do with that money? They have programs. And so the way to get rid of all of this mess is to get rid of the programs, but they can't let you know that. That's why they're putting it as a school tax. So we've got to correct that issue in our state.
Absolutely right. And I know they need to go. But let me just tell you, it's not a lost cause. We moved into a city that everybody in a county, they said, was predominantly left. We said no. I got on the radio. I never got paid a dime for all the mornings I got on that radio and created a show. Got national advertisers for this woman. Did several tea parties. I emceed the St. Louis Tea Party with Dick Morris up underneath the arch. We did a lot of stuff like that. Never got a dime. Tracy started the Federation of Republican Women there in our town. We got a Patriots Club going. We've never had a local official elected as a Republican. This last election, we swept and we won every seat. Now we've got all the left wanting to switch parties and come over to the Republican Party. And we're saying, no. We know your true colors. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I really want to appreciate it. Can you give another round of applause and his wife? He'll be around. Of course, you already answered mine, how to follow him on Twitter, so I got it.
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry I ran you so far over.